Hi. So, Hesiod has three answers to the question, what is the cause of all things? These causes are chaos, Gaia, Eros, and Styx. Eros is the answer of Aristotle to Hesiod's question. To answer the cause of all things, Hesiod used different critiques. The first critique is rational critique. Hesiod challenges the notion of traditional authority by appealing to the muses. Hesiod makes a rational argument against those who have the power to wield the law, even if they shouldn't. The argument is that the basileus, or the judges, can be bribed, in this case by Perseus, who bought them off. This results in tension between Perseus and Hesiod. The rational critique is simply Hesiod rejecting the notion of traditional things and elements in society because they're not actually or automatically reasonable. The second critique is the ethical critique. This critique defends Zeus' kinship. There must be justice for all, equality of portion distributed to the immortals. The third critique is theological critique. This deals with cosmogony. Cosmogony deals with the story of how things come into being, as well as what it is not. Hesiod implies that the ability to make a distinction between two things come by putting contrast, a sense of differentiation between them. This is where the first answer of Hesiod comes in, which is chaos. He believes that what falls between two distinct and opposite elements is essentially chaos, not necessarily disorder, but the gap between said elements. The phenomenological prerequisite for any emergence is separation. Relating this to the creation story based on biblical facts, God created two opposites, light and darkness. This would essentially be day and night. So to be able to make things appear before us, there must be a distinction between two things. Chaos, then, would be the event of separation. For things to come into being, first they must be disentangled from one another. Differentiation is the event of emergence. The second answer is Gaia. Gaia as an event of separation. Gaia is going to emerge into self-awareness through separation from her children. This separation would represent an identity coming into consciousness. Upon naming her children, Gaia is going to recognize herself. She moves from a relatively naive and lack of self-awareness towards a more and more acute notion of the self and what is being done to her towards a resolution for justice. An example used in class was the excursus of Jacob's progeny to show that there is an underlying meaning behind the names of his children. Levi means attached and Judah means praise. Relating this to Gaia, Gaia's naming of her children shows the progression of her state of consciousness, from non-separation to separation or chaos. Gaia's first child is Oceanus. To the Greeks, the ocean was thought to be a river that ran around the land. It was the first boundary of differentiation between the land and the other. Gaia would eventually give birth to all things, such as the source of the sun, source of the river, etc. Aristotle's answer for Hesiod's question is Eros. It has an efficient cause. Love is the most prominent of immortal beings. Love and chaos are opposite ends of the same point. It is like biceps and triceps. They are different muscles and yet they work together. Chaos makes things come into the world and love continues the movement. The last answer is Styx. This is a river that flows in the underworld and binds all of nature together. It can be the best answer to the question, what is the cause of all things, due to the bracketing structure of the book. We know that the gods would eventually fight among themselves, and this would lead to the chaos of war. This war is different because this is the war of the gods, and these gods are significant because they are an interpretation of a material event or what happens to the world. Further, the coming together of all the gods shake the foundation of all things. The potential for there being beings is answered by the bracket Tartarus. With the discussion of Tartarus in theogony, Hesiod paints a picture of the earth that floats on water. Gaia is enveloped in chaos, and under chaos is Tartarus. The earth does not ground itself. Gaia must be rooted in something, and that something is Tartarus. This is what makes the earth stable. Inside Tartarus is the river Styx. The ocean runs around Gaia, and this ocean flows down into Tartarus, into the river Styx. Styx is the foundation of the earth, the grounding of it. Styx is the source of all other original causes, the ground of the common ground. In the oath of the Styx, the reason why Gaia is a stable foundation is because it has pillars that go down into something that is stable itself. The ground has a ground that makes it stable. Strife and quarrel is what theogony is about. about the gigantic war that not only hazards particular things, but their possibility of their being things. The resolution to this war is this oath. Zeus sends Iris to the river Styx to draw water and bring it to the council of the gods to demonstrate the truthfulness of one's claim. To wrap up, Hesiod's causes is based on the rational, ethical, and theological critique. Rational because what is must be grounded. Just as the gods need the earth as an ever sure foundation, the earth too is grounded. It is theological because even though Zeus is the most powerful god, his supremacy is contested and democratic. It is theological critique because of the very nature of a god. Ethical because the supremacy of the gods depend on the justice and truthfulness. Zeus is the most powerful god, not because of a convention, but because of consensus among other gods.